Martin, great to see you, man. Welcome to Popternative.
Hey man, yeah, thanks for having me, Peter.
I'm so happy for you and the Blitz Berlin crew. I mean, you guys just keep scoring unbelievable things. I'm so happy for you guys. I feel like there's always a Blitz Berlin scored film at a film festival. It feels like that these days. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to remain gainfully employed.
We're talking about kind of Tribeca around the corner. Queens of the Dead has been selected to premiere there. You guys did the score for this. You can answer this with this film, but I kind of want to talk to you in general. I mean, there's always going to be, a certain kind of like, I wouldn't say formula, but you, Dean, and Tristan have a way of doing things. You have a process. You have certain sounds you want to work on, and you have a feel of what a Blitz Berlin soundtrack's going to feel like. But all these films are different, right? Some of these are more psychological, some of them are more gory, some of them are more fun. What is that balance like for you as a film composer, where it's like you have your Blitz Berlin signature, but it's also like depends on the project, what the project needs?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every project we try to approach like as freshly as possible. Like we do for sure have a formula when it comes to the three of us working together and the way that can kind of like work the easiest. But when it comes to like the actual sonics of a film, we are very script first. We start with the story. We start with what makes this unique, because we got into this business making what I think are fairly unique scores and unique sounds for movies. And that's what really interests us.
Yeah.
So we don't have a whole lot of interest in like phoning in something that's a typical score, what you would expect. So the projects we're the most attracted to are the ones that have a strong voice to them and make strong choices and give us a little bit of freedom to create like its own world. So even within a genre space, like you say, if it's, I don't know, like a haunted house movie or something, well, that's a very broad brush to paint with. Like, what makes this one specifically unique? What is it about the characters or the setting, or even certain props or things in the film that are very unique? Yeah, jump off from that. Yeah,
Absolutely. We are obviously here to talk about, Blitz Berlin and what you got going on, but specifically Queens of the Dead at Tribeca. What was something about this project that kind of excited you from a score component? Maybe that was something a bit different than previous projects, so to speak.
Yeah, 100%. So this one is very unique because it came to us. So the director, Tina Romero, is George Romero's daughter. This is her making a legacy sequel in her father's franchise, but very much her own film. Like, this is not a George Romero movie. This is completely her vision. It is very funny. It is very out there, very exciting, takes big swings, and they, in my opinion, really land. Like, it's a really good time, this movie. And what attracted us from the get-go is her kind of like lookbook for the film, and her script and everything out of the gate had such a strong voice to it and such a strong choice. Like, this wasn't going to be a bunch of different zombie movies being referenced or something. She's telling her own story, which is like in, the East Village of New York, and specifically in a drag club, and the types of characters that would be present, the types of music and needle drops that would be in the film as well, that are really iconic to that area and the sort of era that the film was inspired by. So this wasn't going to be a typical zombie score or horror score. There's going to be a dance element, there's going to be an electronic element, there's going to be a pop music element that we're really going to lean into, which we've never done with a film before. So
But I feel like you'll be able to handle it for people that know who you guys are.
yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Like, this is a lot of music that we listen to, especially with the more like electronic kind of rhythmic club sort of stuff, are some genres that we listen to on our own time that we don't often get to include in a film score. So to make this one scary and definitely have some of its like zombie moments and its zombie references, and we got as well to adapt some of John Harrison's amazing theme from the original Romero movies, which was really cool. So it's got that zombie element, it's got those recognizable parts, but it is through this really strong stylistic lens where it's quite funny, it's quite colorful, it's quite bright. There's a real momentum to this film. It really cooks. So it's not really like any score we've ever done, but it was so much fun.
Absolutely. It's interesting because for our viewers out here, I mean, you and I have actually known each other for like a decade.
It's true, man. Well, longer than that, probably like maybe like 15 years, even like a long time.
It was crazy. So so basically you used to be in a band called The Set, and I used to be a concert promoter, and we used to book your band in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, That is, yeah, that's how we met. That's how we cut our teeth in music, yeah, for many years. Was playing in a punk band and playing every little bar across Canada, and yeah, you were always a great promoter. That was a great time.
It's so crazy. And there's a question here because you guys just scored, Sweetness with Herman Tamaris from Ragnarok
Yes.
that went to South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering because that music has that movie has a music component, right? Because it's about a pop star.
Sure.
Was that a more kind of unique, exciting kind of opportunity for your band because it kind of brought you back a little bit to the music days, or did it just feel like another project? I'm just wondering about that.
Yeah, that one specifically was unique because aside from scoring the film, which had to have one creative voice, there was also having to create the in-world band
Yep.
in the film that Herman is a singer of, a band called Floor Plan. So nailing that sort of tone, finding this kind of like pop band, but like a little bit alt and whatever. We got to go back to our band roots and kind of write like we used to, and write these four on the floor like drum and bass and guitar and keys and stuff in a more of an actual pop song format than we usually would with scoring. So that was wicked. That is again, yeah, a film that is just entirely plays by its own rules in its own world and has a really unique sound to the music.
Hopefully, there'll be some more opportunities for you to do that in the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man. I mean, it's becoming a bit something that we're almost like a little bit known for because a lot of Steve Kostansky's movies,
Yep.
Like Psycho Gorman or Frankie Frico, or the next one that we just finished, which is called Deathstalker, are all films that don't necessarily have in-world bands, but they have needle drops in the film that are supposed to sound like songs of an era,
Yeah.
but also have lyrics that are like oddly referential to what's
So this,
happening in the
yeah.
film.
So
You know?
this might be a stupid question, so I apologize, but I'm gonna throw it out there anyway. But
Sure.
like, because there's two different things, right? There's the score and then the needle drops, right? Like this, like the songs. Do you guys ever have situations where like, are you involved with that process at all? Like after the score, like do they ever come to you knowing that you guys were musicians and be like, do you have any ideas of like what would be a good needle drop for them listening to this on the radio before they get killed in the woods?
Yes,
You know what I mean?
but yeah, I mean sometimes it really depends. There's a lot of needle drops in a film that would be more handled by a music supervisor that
for
we
sure.
don't really get, especially if it's like something that's on the radio in the background at a beach party and there's something or something like that. Usually isn't something that we would have much to do with. But a lot of the films we worked on, like Sweetness or like Psycho Gorman or Frankie Frico or Deathstalker or any of these, there are moments where it's just supposed to not really sound like the film score. It's supposed to sound like a song from a band, but it has to be so specific. There's no way that needle drop exists. So in that case, we are creating that like a band. And I think that's maybe an advantage that we had having played together for so many years that we can kind of step into band mode.
So it wasn't that bad of a question then. Because
Not at all, man. Not at all. That's a complicated question, and every project is different. I mean, some of the smaller, lower budget films that we've done don't even have a music supervisor, so we do sort of have to play that role sometimes.
dude,
But
I talk about this all the time. Like we talked about this like off air too. Like I always like I've just been obsessed with like listening to songs and discovering music and going back to old songs and being like needle drop, needle drop, needle drop. Like I gotta get in there and like pick them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah,
So it's interesting, right? Because horror movies are popping right now. You're not only doing horror movies, you're kind of doing some other things as well. But you guys are cutting your teeth in that genre, and I think like you have over 5 films that have been on Shudder. I feel like it's 5 at least.
yeah, it could be. Yeah,
Or like 4, at least 3, because there's Psycho Gorman, Brooklyn, and I'm missing one more, and Superhost. So there's 3 at least.
yeah, totally. Yeah, you're right.
So horror movies are fun, but they're also like suspenseful and like scare the crap out of people, right? So
Sure. Yeah.
your scores have done that, right? Where they are fun, but they are kind of spooky depending on times.
Sure. Yeah.
Does that balance happen while you're just making it? Are those conversations with Dean and Tristan before where like you have, like, I'm just curious about that balance. Cause that's like in your scores, 100%, because they're like horror movie scores. Yeah.
100%, and I mean, especially with Steve Kostansky's films, like the balance between something being scary or gory or like a big moment, or being quite funny or satirical, like those there's a lot of interplay there. And what I would say is it's all begins with the director, really.
Mm-hmm.
So the director's vision for that balance is a really, really important part, and something that we discuss pretty intently before myself and Dean and Tristan start writing together. So that kind of striking that tone can be complicated, and that is one of the first things that we try to figure out is
Yeah.
where's the line. Is it most of the stuff that we do, the music itself never really gets like funny in like a broad comedy way. If anything, it's underscoring jokes or making unexpected turns at certain points that will make something funny for that reason. And that's a very specific balance to strike. So it's different for every project, but it's not an easy thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Does it also excite you? Because I find it interesting, right? You try to go to as many of the film festivals as you can that your films get premiered at, like the ones that you do the scores for, but there's, so many things, so many projects going on. It's cool to think about the different kind of ways people are able to experience your scores. Like they can experience them like in the movie theaters, they can experience them at home once they hit streaming and everything. Do you think about the different ways we consume music in films, and does that kind of impact your process of creating these songs for movies?
That's a good question, actually. I think that we always write with the theater experience.
Of course. I feel like that's a give. I feel like that's just, of course.
Yeah. Because we're big movie theater people. I love going to see movies. I love being in the theater in a big room with a big sound system, big screen, all that sort of stuff. That's when I think I felt the most like emotional impact from a film. So we always write with that as kind of our pinnacle. And then of course you can, really enjoy movies at home as well. But that ends up being, I think, if it works in a theater, then it's more a matter of just like the right kind of mix to make sure that it's going to work at home. It's not necessarily different in the writing. We always go for broke with the writing and try to create those big moments as much as we can.
Absolutely. And I find it interesting as well because Blitz Berlin is, a group that go where the opportunities are, and you love collaborating with a lot of really cool people and up and coming filmmakers. And, there is that kind of aspect of, creating something that is going to land on the big screen. It's going to land at a film festival. But for you, what would you say is, and I'm sure Tristan and Dean would have different answers, but maybe you can answer for you, because I don't know if you could speak for all of Blitz Berlin, or maybe you can. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, what is your ideal kind of project that you like to work on as a group?
Man, that's a tough one to answer, honestly, because I used to always say science fiction because it's what I love to watch and what I love to just experience. I grew up loving, obviously, Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff. I've just finished Andor, which is amazing. Like I love living in those worlds. So I guess that would be something that I would love to continue to work in. We had the pleasure of working on part of Blade Runner a few years ago, which was a big one for me. I remember, watching that movie as a kid and that being very iconic to me. But I think the longer that we do this, the more honest way to answer that is it's less genre specific. It's more just about projects that take a bold swing. They're projects that are trying to do their own thing, that have their own creative voice, and just try to make something that feels a little bit exciting and a little bit fresh. And that's the most fun thing for us. And that could be any genre. It could be a comedy or a horror movie. It could be a thriller or a science fiction, journey.
And last question, because I really think my viewers are going to find this very interesting. I kind of want you to talk a little bit about that kind of path and journey of the type of kind of projects you worked on. Because for a lot of people that know you guys, you started as a punk band, then you kind of got involved with some stuff and some movies, but you were making trailer music for a lot of times. And that's kind of what really kind of set the tone. Now you're making scores. So can you talk a little bit about that journey? I'm sure you've talked about this a lot, but it's just like, I feel like my viewers will enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, we as you mentioned, we started as a punk band in high school. That's when we met and when we started making our first music. We were making records and touring.
Monsters is a great record. Shows. One of the best records of all time. Sorry.
Wait, which one, sorry?
Monsters. I love that record. Oh. It's so good.
Yeah, well, thank you. But that's...
You're like, yeah, cool. That was like almost like 15 years ago.
It's been a long time now. So, I mean, we made records that way for a long time, got our first record deal, and basically went through a period of time where the band was really changing what we wanted to do. And we were fortunate enough at that time, as we started experimenting with new sounds, to have a music video director at the time reach out, and he got his first bit of money to make a film and asked us to score it. And then we ended up getting a chance to make music for a movie trailer for the movie The Girl on the Train. And those two things happened kind of around the same time, and both kind of opened this door into writing for film and TV that we didn't really think that guys like us could do, to be honest with you. I think I had this idea in my mind that to be a film composer, you had to be like John Williams or something. You had to be this, virtuoso composer who did all his scores by hand and conducts his own orchestras and all that stuff, which is not our background at all, coming from punk rock. So we kind of that opened the doors and showed us that, oh, actually we can do this job, and there's people out there that are interested in the kind of sounds that we make. And yeah, that got us our visas, moved us to Los Angeles, and really kicked off our careers. So that's our totally non-linear
I
path
find
that
like
arrived
this is
here.
usually for like that's usually a question that's asked in the beginning of the interview, but we ended it here with Pop Turner.
Well, there you go. That's Inception.
Absolutely. Queens of the Dead premiering at Tribeca. They're going to be able to check that out, which is really exciting. Martin, so great chatting with you, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, you too, Peter. That was great, man. Thanks very much for having me.
Of course, Blitz Berlin on Instagram. They can keep up to date with everything. There's going to be a lot of films. There's a lot of cool things. You guys are very good at teasing your upcoming projects, but sometimes people might blink and miss it, so they got to go to the stories.
Yeah. Fair. Hey, we try to, we're not the best at social media, to be honest with you. So we'll try to post about everything we can.
Absolutely. Pop Turner magazine they could check out as well. Might or might not be some cool feature there. They just gotta wait and see. Well, this has been Pop Turner at youtube.com/Pop Turner for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Martin Macphail from Blitz Berlin and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.